co-governance being such a, oh my God, don't say the word. Is it pure racism, or there's a lot of ignorance of what it would mean?
Well, they don't want us to have the power we should have. Who's they? That's a good question.
Well, there's normal, and people just want normal. But this person's normal is not that person's normal, and their normals may not be my normal.
Yeah, because the arguments that I hear just recently, actually, from parties like ACT and National, that say this is nonsense because New Zealand is one as a nation, and the people is the same. And I'm like, I don't think it works like that. Yeah, it works like that when it's for the benefit of the one who is already taking more advantage of a system. Am I right with this way of thinking? Because for me, it doesn't add up. That's why I'm asking if for the majority of the people, it's a racism thing, or if they're just not aware of the historical context of the nation where they live, of the place where they're from.
It's the old fear thing, you know. It's like the foreshore seabed, you know. It's fear. Now that now this Three Waters thing and all that's come up, and they don't want us at the governance table, and we've been stereotyped as being more like in operations, you know, the guy standing at the end of the shovel, you know, he's going to dig up the valve to fix the valve and what have you. That's where they see us. They don't see us in governance, right? They don't see us sitting at board tables, being part of the decision-making process. And, you know, you can interpret who they are, but, you know, and it's, and this is what, it's just, you know, that apology I refer back to, you know, they need to really look at that apology and what does that really mean.
The why.
Yeah.
It's an acknowledgement of something.
Yeah. You know, we were a sovereign people. We gave up that sovereignty. Not entirely. Not all of us did. Not everyone signed up to it.
In the English version that 30-odd chiefs sold, but 500 plus signed the Māori version that all Māori understood at the time.
That's right.
And they say two different things.
That's right.
So for people to say, the treaty says this and this and this, if they're speaking about the English text, they're right in their heads, but it's not the treaty. Because for us, the treaty wasn't the piece of paper. It was the kōrero and the understanding between people with mana on two sides of the table.
The mana of the person across from you.
Which is why acknowledgement and apologies are more important to iwi than getting 1 to 3% back on what was yours. And then everyone says, oh, that iwi's got lots of money. But when they get land back, the money gets taken out of that imaginary fund for them to get their own stuff back. Joe mentioned Princess Te Puia before. Tūranga Waewae Marae is the marae at the centre of the King movement. They bought that land. It was their land. It was taken from them, but they bought it. She raised funds with a group of children. She toured around. They do concerts. They had to buy back their own land, and at the time it was being used as a tip by Europeans in Ngāti Hei. And it used to flood every winter. But there was a dream and a prophecy, and it said that this is where we're going to be, so she did it. And getting back to your question, yes, definitely ignorance, because ignorance breeds fear.
Yeah.
And some people capitalise on fear, particularly around elections, particularly when they want to radicalise people and stir them up. We've heard in the news about 6 or 7-ish weeks ago during a question answer session, Rawiri Waititi brought up with the Prime Minister, the greatest threat to internal security in New Zealand at the moment is the radicalisation of young white men by extreme white supremacist groups. Not brown ones, not Islamic ones, not anything else. But all of the things we tend to be stereotyped as acting like those gangs back pre-1840, those are the same stereotypes that were dumped on the Irish when the English wanted to get them off the land. And then what happened? Oh, there's a potato famine. There was no potato famine in Ireland. That was a strategy employed by the British military to starve Irish people off their farms. So what did they do? Millions of them ended up in the States. So by the time the colonial machine got to New Zealand, it was a well-oiled machine. It was the most efficient machine of its time, And there have been other machines that did the same thing at other times in history. Not trying to say that's not a thing, but when it comes to New Zealand, when you talk about fairness, you have to talk about fairness, not pretend fairness, or fairness for people, like you said, are beneficiaries of entitlement and have been for close to 200 years. And then say, okay, we're all on a playing level field. No, we're not. Moana's arguments to David Seymour was, well, look at these stats, health stats, housing stats with Māori, and say, prison. As individuals, blah, 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 we're tribal people. A lot of our people are disconnected from their tribal roots, but what we have when we do the eyebrows, we connect to people. I can whakapapa to Joe, he can whakapapa to me if we need to be, and we extend that to our Pākehā colleagues and friends, because that's how we relate to people. We use it in business, we use it in education, but from people that are obsessively, narcissistically, invested in talking about my stuff, it's hard to see that point of view. I'd argue that being a bit more collective in the way you do things is probably what's going to allow us to stay alive, or say, to allow a portion of the human population to stay viable on the planet, maybe for just 200 or 300 more years, if we're lucky, a bit longer. But that my stuff thing, that's a form of insanity. Talk to any Indigenous person or any person that's not thinking in that such a narrow space, it's not sustainable.